Well, greetings and salutations, everybody. Welcome back to the channel for this installment of Open Mic, the show where the mic is open. The floor is yours. What do you guys want to talk about? That is what we are here to discuss today. My name, of course, is John Campea. Awesome to have you guys here. And there's two different ways you guys can get your thought or question addressed here on the show. The first way is that if you are watching live, and only if you are watching live, is use the super chat feature in the live chat. Oh, that's the wrong one. And send it in there. The super chats are currently open, and yeah, I say the super chats are about half full right now, so there's still some room for them in there, so I will turn them off at some point. I'll give you a warning before I do, though. The other way is if you're watching the show any of the other 24 hours of the day that we're not streaming live, maybe it's 1 o'clock in the morning, you can use our tip link anytime, 24/7 at streamelements.com/JohnCampea/tip and send it in there. And as long as your thought, question, theory, opinion, observation, or question is appropriate for us to address, I will address it here on Open Mic. And good to have you guys here. And it is time for us to talk about the Oscars. And we're not going to talk about the Oscars at length the way we did on the John Campea Show earlier today. But today, right now, I just wanted us to touch on those things on the Oscars that I think they got right and I think they got wrong. Now, let's be clear. Every Oscars, there are going to be some people you want to win that win, and some people that you don't think should have won that do win. That doesn't mean you're right and the Oscars got it wrong. So when I use the phrase, let's talk about, like in the title of this video, what did the Oscars get right and what did the Oscars get wrong? It's kind of, I'm just being cheeky, okay? Like, just because in a couple of categories, they gave it to things that I didn't think should have got it, or some categories didn't get things that I think they should have got. That doesn't mean they got it wrong. I'm just saying they didn't do what I thought they should have done, right? And I'm not the arbiter of what is right and wrong. I'm just talking as a fan about the things I thought they got right and things they got wrong. All right, so let me talk first about the things that I think they got wrong. And of course, again, let me reemphasize, this is just me complaining, right? Just because they didn't pick what I picked doesn't mean they got it wrong. I'm just using that terminology, okay? Are we all clear on that? Good. So, I mean, listen, there were at least 7, 8, or 9 categories last night. And by the way, in case you didn't see the John Campea Show earlier today, best Oscars in years. I mean, in all honesty, guys, you guys who are watching the show right now, how long has it been since there was an Oscars and you saw me excited about them the day after? Like some of you guys have been watching me for a long time. How long has it been? Like, when's the last time that after the Oscars, I was like, oh my God, they did such a great job with the Oscars. We did such a great job with the Oscars. Like, when's the last time you heard me say that? Elvis C is saying first time. Yeah, I mean, I probably said it at some point, but I mean, it's been a while. It has been a while since I think they really, really nailed the Oscars. And I'm not talking about the results. I'm talking about the show overall and the presentation and the event. But so I wanted to say that before we got into like some nitpicks. So there were 6, 7, or 8 categories where the people or group that I thought should have won didn't win. But most of those 6, 7, or 8, it was so close that the people who did win, I have no argument with. Like, I have no debate from me, no argument. Yeah, that's not the one I would have picked, but that one was really effing awesome too, and it was really close to the one I would have picked. And therefore, even though it's not the one I would have picked, I got no problem with the winner because they were great and they deserved it too. You know what I'm saying? There's only two categories that left me going, what are you doing? What are you doing? The first one was Best Animated Feature. Listen, The Boy and the Heron is wonderful, right? It's a wonderful movie. I have no problem with it taking second place, but it's a wonderful, 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 wonderful film. I am not here to crap talk on that movie whatsoever. It's a fantastic film, but it should not have won Best Animated Feature. Shouldn't have won Best Animated Feature. I thought there was a considerable gap between how good Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse was and how good The Boy and the Heron was. And then probably everything else quite far behind it with those two. Those were the two clear frontrunners. But I thought Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse was a notably better film. I thought it was a top 3 best film of the year, to be honest with you. Again, this is just me. But I just thought it was a significantly better film. I mean, how do you vote against Miyazaki? I don't know. I mean, maybe there's a rule in the movie fans handbook that if there's a Miyazaki thing, you're not supposed to vote against it. But whatever, I really thought that should have been a clear winner for Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse. Didn't win. Okay, that's fine. Some of the Oscar voters, a majority of the Oscar voters thought otherwise. I got no beef. That's fine. But I really do think Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse should have won. And that's fine. So the other one, though, is the more controversial one. Because with all due respect to my fellow Godzilla -1 fans, and I am a big fan of this movie, there's just no reality that the visual effects in Godzilla -1 were nearly as good as the visual effects in The Creator. There hasn't been a movie in a while whose visual effects were nearly as good as the visual effects in The Creator. Now, here's always the big problem. Whenever we're talking about a category like visual effects, and I say that, the first thing people yell back at me, John, Godzilla -1 was great. I know Godzilla -1 was great. It was fantastic. It was better than The Creator. I agree. I 100% agree. Godzilla -1 is a better movie than The Creator. I am on your side with that. I 100% agree. I mean, don't get me wrong. I like The Creator. I like that movie. It's a good movie, but Godzilla -1 was a better movie, 100%. But that's not what the award is. And then the third thing somebody said to me today, getting in a big argument with me today, that, actually Dr. Stinky's saying it now. You're so wrong. The Creator had an $80 million budget. Godzilla only had 14 to 15. That's irrelevant. It wasn't Dr. Stinky earlier today, but somebody threw that in. It's like, well, John, The Creator had like an $80 million budget, like a 5 times bigger budget. And that doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if one movie had a $5 budget and another movie had a $5 billion budget. The name of the award is not Best Visual Effects for your dollar. The name of the award isn't Best Visual Effects on a per dollar basis. If the award was Best Visual Effects on a per dollar basis, obviously it's Godzilla -1. Obviously, it's Godzilla -1. What they did with $15 million is remarkable. It's remarkable. You're not going to get any argument with it. I'm on your side, 100%. Like, seriously, like Hollywood needs to really look at what they were able to accomplish in Godzilla -1. Now, granted, they have a lot of benefits where, they can make movies a lot cheaper. But I'm saying what they were able to do for $15 million is mind-blowing. Absolutely mind-blowing. But that's not the name of the award. The name of Best Visual Effects is Best Visual Effects, period. And if you were to take away the budgets and take away which movie was better, because we all agree, do we all agree that Godzilla -1 was the better movie? Like, again, not taking anything away from The Creator. Nothing away from The Creator. I thought it was a very enjoyable movie. I liked it. But I think most of us would agree that Godzilla -1 was the better film. But the name of the award isn't Better Film with Visual Effects. The name of the award is Best Visual Effects. And there's no reality at all that anybody with any sanity can look and say the visual effects in Godzilla -1 were anywhere close to the visual effects. Again, better movie, but the visual effects were not nearly as good as the effects in The Creator. And I would go a little bit further to say there hasn't been a movie in a couple of years whose visual effects were as good as the visual effects in The Creator. And what I found, and Rob even admitted today, like when he said, I'm glad Godzilla -1 won the best visual effects, but did it really have better visual effects than The Creator? Well, no. But everybody wanted Godzilla Minus One to win an award. And I get it. I totally get it because the movie's fantastic. But I'm sorry, guys, but it didn't have the best visual. It had the best visual effects on a dollar for dollar basis, certainly. But it didn't have the best visual effects. And it shouldn't have won. But then they give the award to Godzilla Minus One. And like one of the best moments in all of the Oscars last night happened when that crew from Godzilla Minus One came up on stage and they all had their Godzilla action figures and they were all wearing Godzilla themed feet and they were adorable. It was like one of the best moments of the night. So I can't be too mad because even though the wrong film got given the Academy Award in that category, the result of that award going to the wrong film was one of the most precious, great moments in the Oscars because that I could have watched that group on stage for like 15 minutes. I would have been totally okay if for like 15 minutes they were just allowed to keep speaking. So I thought they were great. And really those are my only major nitpicks with the awards. I mean, yeah, the Melissa McCarthy, Octavia Spencer presentation thing. I love Octavia Spencer and Melissa McCarthy. You guys who've watched me for any period of time, you know that I do. But I mean, aside from Thunder Force, which is one of the worst films I've seen in years, but I love those two. Love those two. And their bit at the Oscars didn't really work. And of course, the Al Pacino thing at the end was very strange. But I'll tell you what, guys, overall, I have a hard time ranking what I think the best thing about the Oscars was. Number one, even though he was not my pick, and even though I admit I was skeptical when they said Jimmy Kimmel was going to host, Kimmel was really solid. Kimmel was really, really solid. He did a superb job hosting. He wasn't the best part about the Oscars, but he did a very solid job. The best part of the Oscars for me was the John Cena bit. The John Cena coming out naked to award best costume design, saying costumes are important, and he's staying there naked. I thought, I don't know that I've ever laughed as hard. I do not know that I have ever laughed as hard at a moment in the Academy Awards as I did with that. Like, first of all, it was funny just as he's coming out naked. So I thought, this guy's got brass balls. But then when there's that moment of silence and he goes, costumes. And then it dawns on everybody what the category is. It was like one of the best moments I've ever seen at the Oscars. I thought it was great. The joke about AMC theaters was Warner goes, we're now an hour and a half into the show, which means if you were going to a movie at AMC theaters, the movie would just be starting. Like sometimes okay, am I crazy? Because in other years too, Jimmy Kimmel's done jokes at the Oscars that I have gone, okay, I know this is extremely myopic of me. But come on, there have been times in Oscars past when Jimmy Kimmel has told certain jokes at the Oscars where I'm like, I think this dude watches my show. And then he made the joke about AMC. But anyway, just me. But because you know how I feel about how long it takes for AMC to actually start their movies. So I thought that was fantastic. The I'm Just Ken was great. Billie Eilish's, I can't, you know me, I complain about the song performances every year. This year, no complaints from me. The Billie Eilish song was beautiful, fabulous. The I'm Just Ken number is probably a top 3 or 4 greatest musical performance number ever at the Academy Awards. I thought it was fantastic. The Emily Blunt, Ryan Gosling presenting and then jabbing each other over Barbenheimer, that was brilliant. The Danny DeVito, Arnold Schwarzenegger Batman gag with Michael Keaton, that was brilliant. The America Ferrera, Kate... what's the girl? Kate McKinnon from Saturday Night Live doing the documentary awards and doing the gag with Spielberg. That was brilliant. What am I missing too? What am I missing? I mean, this is the thing. The pace of the show was fantastic. The pace of the show, and that's always one of the big problems at the Oscars, is they have a horrible pacing. Terrible pacing. But the pace of the Oscars this year was great. The new thing they tried by bringing it for all the acting awards, bringing out like 5 previous winners being led by last year's winner for Best Supporting Actor, Actress, Best Lead Actor and Actress. I didn't know if that was going to work. I'll be honest. I didn't know if that was going to work. But it really worked. It was beautiful, and it was honoring, and it made you feel the power and the prestige of cinema and all that kind of stuff. Also, I got Elvis C is right. I got to give it the Madam Web jokes. Every time, I think they did like 3 of them. Every time they did a Madam Web joke, I cracked up. You know, screenwriting is so vitally important. It's where we get these immortal lines like, we're going to need a bigger boat, or I'll have what she's having, or he was with my mother in the Amazon when she was studying spiders. I just about lost it. I thought it was absolutely hilarious. John Mulaney. I'll be honest with you. I didn't know if the John Mulaney thing would fit with the Oscars, but Mulaney came out and Mulaney started rolling on his whole Field of Dreams thing. And I was laughing hard. I thought that was great. And you know what? Somebody even said today on the John, one of the viewers wrote in today, said, how about John Mulaney hosting the Oscars next year? And I'm like, if his presentation was an audition for hosting the Oscars next year, don't get me wrong, I'm really good. I'd be totally fine if Jimmy Kimmel hosts again next year, because I thought he did a very, very good job this year. Not the best, but he did a very good, solid job this year. But if they were to come out of nowhere and announce that John Mulaney was going to host next year, I wouldn't be mad at that. I would think that's great. He did a fabulous job with that one little part. I don't know, maybe it would get tired after a while, but it really, really worked for me. The winners, none surprisingly, Oppenheimer stole the show, right? Oppenheimer dominated the night, winning the most awards with 7 and winning a good chunk of the big awards: Best Picture, Best Director, Best Actor, Best Supporting Actor. It did great. Poor Things showed very, very well. I think they won 4 or 5 Academy Awards last night, including Best Lead Actress for Emma Stone, which was the one category that everybody wasn't really sure who's going to win. Like everybody else, every other category, everybody had kind of an idea who they thought would win. But Lily Gladstone or Emma Stone, it was a total toss-up. Who was going to take it? Emma Stone took it. Her speech was fantastic. She's now a two-time Academy Award winner. And she's going to have more. Before she's done, she's going to have more. She's just that good. You know, what I didn't realize was that that was her 5th nomination. I didn't realize that was her 5th nomination. Like she's not there yet. But she's starting to crawl into that conversation. Listen, she gets 1 or 2 more nominations and 1 or 2 more Oscars. I'm not saying she's in the elite top 3, but she's on the outside, start to have to get into the greatest actresses of all time conversation. I'm not saying she's there yet. Nobody lose your mind. But with 5 nominations, 2 wins, and she's still so bloody young, if she gets 1 or 2 more nominations and 1 or 2 more actual wins, she's going to have to be in the conversation. Again, maybe on the outside of the conversation, but in the conversation nonetheless. And if she gets like 4 more nominations and 2 more Oscars, she ends up with like 4 Academy Awards on her mantle. That puts her in extremely rare air. But I mean, she's won 2. That already puts her in a very, very small club of actresses who have won 2 Academy Awards. There's not a lot of them. But she adds a 3rd or a 4th up there. Man, I mean, she's gonna be a part of the conversation. She's not the new street monster, necessarily, DX or DMLX. She's not necessarily the new street monster. I'm just saying when you have those conversations, there's going to be 5, 6, 7 names you throw around when you're having the conversation. I'm just saying Emma Stone's going to have to be one of those names. You don't necessarily put her at the top or anything like that, but she's going to be in there. Let's look to you guys before we start taking questions. I'm going to look to you guys in the live chat here. What were some of the other big moments of the night that were like really, really great that maybe I didn't mention yet? I mean, we mentioned the DeVito Schwarzenegger thing. We mentioned, okay, look, I think it doesn't matter which side of the political aisle you're on. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. I don't care if you're left or right, doesn't matter. And if the social media post had come from a Democrat, it would be no less funny. Kimmel actually taking a social media post that a political leader wrote and actually read it live on television. It reminds me very much of his mean tweets bit that we see on the talk shows. That was pretty funny. I know they're going to be, depending on people's politics, they may not have liked it. I just thought it was funny regardless. So that was a good one. Oh, the tequila moment. Yeah. My wife was laughing her ass off at the tequila moment. And my beautiful wife, Charlize Theron. I thought that was hilarious. That was really good. Oh yeah, the dog from Anatomy of a Fall clapping. But even at the end, Jonathan pointed out too, and the kind of post credits of the Oscars, the dog pissing on the Matt Damon star on the Walk of Fame was really, really, really great. Let's see. Yeah, the Blunt Gosling gag, mentioned that one. That one was really fantastic. Love that. The Cord Jefferson speech was really good for American Fiction. I was really, really happy to see American Fiction win one of the major awards with screenplay. It's a brilliant film. And I mean, I think some of the things Cord said in his speech were a little optimistic, but the spirit of what he was saying, I think, is very true. And we just need to go out and support more films like it, guys. I mean, that's it. We need to go out and support more things. Oh yeah, Sean, I'm glad you mentioned this one. Them doing the song from Killers of the Flower Moon, I thought that was great. That was so good. I enjoyed that immensely. And it's one of those things where I would have been cool if they just ran the song for another 5 minutes. I would have been perfectly good with that too. And yeah, so anyway, guys, that's some of the stuff that I think the Oscars got right. Some of the things that I thought they got wrong, but only by my own personal subjective opinion. They didn't get it wrong. It's just that I would have done something different. But overall, guys, I got to tell you, and I expressed this a little bit on the John Campea Show earlier today, but as somebody who, for decades, since I started online movie punditry, I've let you guys know the Oscars is my second favorite day of the year other than Christmas. And for a lot of years, the Oscars have not lived up to being my second favorite day of the year. This year it did. And it felt really good. It felt good to love the Oscars again. I thought they crushed it. It was truly a celebration of excellence. It was also a celebration of the art. It was a celebration of the artists who do all the stuff that they need to do to bring us this entertainment. It was just a really well done show. And I've never been able to say that as enthusiastically as I do today. And especially after the last number of years. I mean, in the last couple of years, the last 5, 6, 7 years, there have been some Oscars that were all right. Right? Like, they haven't all been like garbage. Like, there have been a number of Oscars the last couple of years that, you know, I watched them go, you know what, that was okay. That was a pretty good show. There have been Oscars the last 6 or 7 years. It's like, ooh, that was forgettable. But I'm telling you guys, it's been a long time since on a day after the Oscars, I've been able to say, I loved the Oscars. Been a long time, man. Been a really, really long time. And it feels good. Feels really good to be able to say that. So anyway, all right, guys. With that down, let's get to business here. What we are here for, which is to hear from you, to take your comments and questions. We're going to start things off here with, as we always do, the people who use the tip link to send in questions over the past couple of days. So let's get over there now. We're going to start off with, let's see, Ensalagon the Black writes, hey, John, did you hear Neil deGrasse Tyson pointing out Dune 2's scientific plot holes on Stephen Colbert? No, I've not. By the way, I love Stephen Colbert. Things like Thumper could never work because sand is one of the most soundproof materials ever, and other stuff like that. Hilarious and kind of truth. Yes, but here's the problem with that. The problem with that is it's applying Earth reality science to a world that might have otherworldly science. Sand on Earth may be one of the most soundproof things and not have vibrations travel nearly as much as if it's, say, were through stone or something else. But maybe on Arrakis, the chemical makeup of sand there might be very opposite. Not to mention, you have these non-real worms. And even if like the vibrations going through the sand are even undetectable by scientific measurements, those worms may have the ability to detect it nonetheless, right? So, but listen, I always get a kick out of when I see like actual Air Force pilots talk about the problems in Top Gun Maverick, or, you know, actual science guys talking about the principles in a sci-fi. I always get a kick out of this stuff. I thought that stuff has always been really kind of cool. All right. Well, Robert Borks is saying it's not sound, it's vibrations. Sound is vibration. Like, yeah. So like sound is literally is a form of vibration, but anyway, another thing altogether. All right. Next up, we go to Just Jay Newbie writes, in 2004, a kid I went to school with won a singing competition on VH1 to be Danny Partridge in the Partridge Family reboot. It was canceled after the pilot, but he starred opposite of Emma Stone. Pilot is on YouTube. It's bad, but I still find it really cool. That is really cool. That is great. And you know what? Oh man, I wish Aaron Cummings was here right now. I'll tell you what, Aaron Cummings is like the queen. I mean, listen, she's had a much more successful, active acting career than many actresses. That being said, she's also kind of been the queen of bad luck because you have no idea how many pilots Aaron has done. Like, I remember talking to her, she got so I landed this pilot, I'm in this new show with this star, and they are names you would know, and blah, blah, blah. And then the pilot didn't get picked up. Okay. And then she lands a role in a show that does go to air, but it only lasts one season. Actually, I remember she landed a role in this TV show about Jersey law or something like that. And she was like the number 2 or number 3 supporting character in the show. And the show, I think if I remember right, the show only lasted 1 episode and then they canceled after 1 episode. It's just, yeah, it's just one of those things, but that is really cool that your friend was able to do that, even if it didn't get picked up. All right, next up, we've got Charles Hermosillia, who writes, Anya Taylor-Joy plays Paul's sister in part 3. Is she the so-called Kwisatz Haderach and the prophecy who will cause all the hunger and death Paul sees in his visions? I never read the books. Well, I'm not going to go into I'm neither going to confirm nor deny anything. I am not going to talk about what for anybody who has not read the books, I'm not going to talk about what may or may not be happening in Dune Messiah, other than to say that I am worried about Dune Messiah. I am worried about Dune Messiah. It's not as good of a book as the original Dune. And the things that happen in it, many things that happen in it, are very fan not friendly. Yeah, I'm worried about it. But yeah, we'll see what Denis does. Denis will do. All right, next up. The 8th writes, my brother and nephews think Dune is boring. Again, listen, I've always talked about this, right? Dune is not it's not a Star Wars. Like, it's not a Marvel film. It's not a movie that's meant to entertain the masses, right? It's not, and there's nothing wrong with movies that entertain the masses. I love movies that entertain the masses, but it is definitely for a smaller audience. Right? 100%. It is not for everybody. I think they're some of the greatest films ever made, but they are not for everybody, and that's understandable. All right. My brother and nephews think Dune is boring, so I finally said, screw it. I'm going to get an AMC A-list and watch Dune 2 alone. I have to feel it in theaters and probably in 4DX too. Also, John, you should be a spokesperson for AMC A-list. You got me at last, LOL. Yeah, I do talk about AMC A-list a lot. Look, you don't have to be a scientist. You don't have to be Neil deGrasse Tyson to know that I can sometimes be extremely critical of AMC theaters. And I'm right to be so. Just for the record, I am right to be critical of AMC theaters on many times. But that being said, you give credit where it's due. Their AMC A-list program is simply the best and most fan-friendly thing out there for movie fans. I pay like $23, $24, $25 a month, something like that. And I get up to 12 movies a month. One movie could cost up to $18. So I go to one movie in a month and it's almost paid for itself. I go to 2 movies a month, I'm in the black. And I use that A-list minimum 5 times a month, sometimes up to 8 times a month. I mean, it is a fabulous deal for movie fans. It's a fabulous deal for movie fans because not only do you get the movies, you also get discounts on the concession stands, and I always get concession stands, and you get points that add up that equal dollar values. I've probably, you know what, I'm going to actually open up my AMC A-list right now. So here we go. I'm opening up my A-list. I'm going to see what I can find here. I think they might have something that will tell you how much you have accrued over like the lifetime of your stuff. So if I go to my rewards page, okay, I have $5 rewards waiting for me right now. I can activate that, but they used to have a thing in here that showed you. I don't see it now. Maybe they took it out. There used to be a thing in the AMC A-list that would actually show you like lifetime how many rewards you've accrued. And it's been a while since I've looked at it, but like I kid you not, the last time I checked, I think it was in the $400 to $500 range. Like $400 to $500 that I've had in rewards, but I don't think it shows it to me anymore. Anyway, maybe it's there somewhere and I just don't know where it is. But listen, with all the criticism I levy against AMC theaters, one of the things that they have done that has really been excellent for film fans and is an excellent, excellent program is their A-list program. And I recommend if you live near an AMC theater anywhere, sign up for A-list. If as long as you go to more than one movie a month. If you just go to one movie a month, you're okay without A-list. But even if you just go to one movie a month, you will love having A-list. Absolutely go and use it. Doesn't take away from all my other criticisms about AMC theaters, but there you go. All right. Chris writes, greetings and salutations. Let me start off with this, shall I? With all the bad box office of the DCU and no guarantee that the new DCU will be any better, what would it take to do a crossover with the MCU as an alternative reality and they share the profits? What would it take? It would take insanity. It would be a stupid thing for them to do, an absolutely stupid, idiotic thing for do that they should never do. They should never do it because there's no upside. There's no upside. It would be a nightmare because everybody's going to argue and fight. Okay, let's say you do an MCU and a Marvel and a DC crossover movie. Okay, let's say you do that. Okay, who are your characters? Who are your characters? Because right there, Marvel fans are going to get super pissed off if their favorite Marvel character isn't one of the main characters. I mean, wouldn't it? There will be cry. Marvel fans will cry. Because one of the biggest complaints that comic book movie fans have is when there's too many characters, right? Okay, that's fine. All right. So Marvel and DC crossover. Who's your characters? So number one, you're going to piss off millions of people who don't have their favorite Marvel or DC character in the movie. Number two, any story would be completely nonsensical. I love the crossover stuff in the comics, but let's be honest, the stories they contrive to have the crossover in the comics are usually pretty ridiculous. Number three, who controls the movie? Who calls the shots? Who makes the decisions about who fights who and who wins which fight and which characters on which side gets the best choice lines, which one jobs the other ones. And it would be a nightmare. And the only thing it will do is potentially damage the Marvel and DC brands. There's no upside to it. I think Elvis C is right on the money in the live chat there. Animated, maybe animated, right? Because then it's insulated and it'll be harmless. Because even if it's horrible, it won't really affect live action Marvel or live action DC. So maybe do it in the animated thing, right? That could be possible. That could be possible. But it's just, look, all I say is this: if I was in charge of either Marvel or DC, no way would I ever greenlight that. Never greenlight it, ever. Now, the one way you could maybe have it is the way Dominic Ray is kind of suggesting it. Forget a Marvel DC universes crossover. What about a what if movie that is just one character from Marvel and one character from DC? One character from Marvel, one character from DC. Whether that one character from DC is, I don't know, they'd never do it with Batman. That they would never let happen. But I don't know, maybe not something as grand as a Blue Beetle, but let's say a Wonder Woman Storm crossover. There could be more of I'm not necessarily saying just Wonder Woman and Storm, but you know what I'm saying? Like a single Marvel character, a single DC character, and one movie that features both of those characters together. That to me has more potential to actually happen. I think because there's less downside, there's less problems for doing it. It wouldn't be as appealing as a full Universal Marvel, full Universal DC, but let's face it, that movie would just be a mess. That could be interesting. Somebody in here is saying Black Adam and Thor. That's not a bad idea. Doctor Strange and Dr. Fate, possibly, except most people don't know who Dr. Fate is, and a lot of people do know who Doctor Strange is now that he's been made so famous in the movies. But something like that could work. Something like that could. That a one character, not universes, just those characters, that could be interesting. I still don't think it'll ever happen, but that would be interesting. All right. Next up. Dre B writes, "Sup, John? Just got married. Congratulations to my best friend of 15 years. A special shout out to my beautiful wife, Tomeka. Dude, super thrilled for you. Congratulations on that wonderful journey ahead of you. Communicate. And man, all the best to you and your new wife, man. That's awesome. Congratulations. All right. Next up, an anonymous viewer writes, "Hey, John, I'm watching The X-Files for the first time and I love it. Great. The show looks great during the story, but the establishing shots look like they were chiseled into rocks." What does that mean? "Any idea why they wouldn't up-res those shots as well? Just seems odd. Meant to put one of two." Oh, okay. So this is a 2 of 2. One of two. And lastly, do you think the reboot of X-Files will continue to follow Mulder and Scully, or do you think they'll give us new agents to follow? Yeah, so for those of you who haven't heard, a new X-Files is coming. And I forget, it's somebody famous who's doing it. Do you guys remember in the live chat? Guys in the live chat, do you guys remember who's doing the new X-Files show? It's somebody famous. It's a well-known name that's doing a new X-Files show. Ryan Coogler. Thank you. Thank you, guys. Spirit Man was the first one to get it in. So there's a new X-Files coming. I might be wrong about this. I might be wrong. But I think it's already been said this is not a continuation of the old X-Files. I mean, they tried doing the old a continuation of the old X-Files, and I don't think it got the results that they wanted it to be. So it'll either be a brand new Mulder and Scully, or it'll be new agents altogether. But I don't think it's going to be in the same continuity. I think it's going to be a reboot. So it's either going to be Mulder and Scully or it's going to be two other characters. My guess, and it's just a guess, okay? I'm not claiming to be speaking from a basis of knowledge here. This is just a guess. My guess, maybe, is that it'll be a reboot with a brand new Mulder and a brand new Scully. That's the way I would do it, but we'll see what Ryan Coogler has in mind. All right. Next up, we got Garden Variety Vagabond, who writes, John, on Dune background, the Mahdi is the Messiah-like entity prophesized. Well, yeah. It's. We've already talked about Herbert very much based the Fremen on the Muslim religion and stuff like that. That's been firmly established. The Mahdi is the Messiah-like entity prophesized to return and usher in the end of time. He is predominantly featured in the 12er sect of Shia Islam and believed to be the 12th Imam. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right. Muhammad, son of Hassan. He did not die, but was taken up and also known as the hidden Imam. There have been many who have led revolts in the Middle East claiming to be the return of the Mahdi. A great movie on the British dealing of this claimants is Khartoum, starring, Charlton Heston's in that, right? If I'm not mistaken. I think it's Charlton Heston, Sir Lawrence Olivier, and Richard Johnson. Thought you'd find this interesting as a theology major and great old movie to plug. Again, yeah, listen, for those of you, I mean, it's funny watching the new Dune movies and having people go, it seems like there's some Islamic influence in the Fremen, the native people of Arrakis. Well, yes, Herbert was very explicit about that. He said that was very much a basis for a lot of what he was making the Fremen culture. He was kind of very directly basing it on that and using a lot of that in the books as well. So that is a very, very true point, Garden Variety. Thanks for bringing it up, man. All right, next up. We've got also from Garden Variety Vagabond. I'm catching up on old shows and heard the comment on the fastest combine 40 speed, but as Bo Jackson did not attend the 1986 combine because everybody knew he was the number one draft pick, but he had a pro day at Auburn and was electronically timed at 4.13. I don't know if I buy that, especially with the timers in 1986. I mean, Bo was fast. Bo was remarkable. He's like one of the greatest he's one of the greatest athletes of all time. But I have a hard time believing 4.13. I'm not saying it's incorrect. I'm just saying I have a hard time believing it. That's all. Let's see. Next up, Luke writes, shout out from Markham, Ontario. I love Markham. I dated a girl from Markham, Ontario, as a matter of fact. Such a huge fan. Would you ever host a meet and greet in Toronto? Here's my problem. I will often remind everybody on my show that I am a fucking nobody. All right. I love our community that we have here, but make no mistake, I'm a nobody. Right. If I go walk into 7-Eleven, odds are nobody there knows who I am. I am a nobody. And part of the reason why I don't do, because I often have people ask me, why don't you do more meet and greets and stuff like that? I'll be straight up honest with you. And I know this will sound weird. I've talked about this once or twice. I know on camera, I don't know why, I feel most at home and most comfortable and most confident on camera. It's weird, but I'm very uncomfortable and out of my element with people. I really am. I mean, ask almost anybody that knows me. They'll tell you that that's true. I'm a very awkward person. And it's all based on insecurity. I'm actually a very insecure person. And I'm very socially shy. But where does it come down to? It comes down to this. The reason I haven't done more meet and greets is because I am convinced if I do meet and greets, nobody's going to come and show up. I'm telling you that listen, I'm opening up my heart and just being honest. My fear, and the reason I don't do more meet and greets and stuff like that, and why I always turn down a lot of stuff, is simply I just have this utter belief that nobody will show up if I do something like that. And that, for an insecure person, it would devastate me. Like if I said, guys, meet and greet outside of Toronto at such and such place on Saturday, whatever, and like 2 people show up and one of them's my mom, I am going to crawl into a hole and just like cry for a week and just be like, ah. So yeah, I mean, it's, yeah, look, but I have promised myself and I've promised people that I will do one either in Toronto or in Hamilton, because Hamilton's my hometown. It's only 45 minutes outside of Toronto. I'll either do one in Toronto or Hamilton sometime in the late next year or two and do that. But it's going to be really hard for me. Just do me a favor, guys. Like, just so a grown-ass man doesn't curl up in the fetal position and cry like a baby. When I do announce that I'm going to do a meet and greet in Toronto or Hamilton, if you live anywhere within a 2 or 3 hour radius, I don't care if you live in Aurelia. Canadians will know what that is. I don't care if you live in Belleville, Aurelia, Perth, wherever. If you live within a couple of hours, please come do it. If for no other reason than to save my mental health. That'll be the only thing. Yeah, that would be great to do. All right. Let's keep going here. Next up, we've got Dune Popcorn Bucket, who writes, I've seen Dune 2 and love it. Zendaya was brilliant casting choice because Chani is really the only relatable character in my opinion, and Zendaya does great at giving the general audience someone to latch onto in this wild story. I know some people are saying she was too normal, but I think that's why she was cast. Paul is royalty and not really relatable to the average person. Even as a white guy, my favorite character was Chani because I connect to her more. Great storytelling. Listen, I'm not gonna try to correct anybody who thought that Zendaya gave a great performance in Dune. I am a big Zendaya fan. Like, you guys have heard me talk about Zendaya. I mean, I wasn't huge early in her career, but I've really grown to appreciate her a lot. And I'm really looking forward to her next movie. I think it's called Challengers. I'm really looking forward to seeing Challengers. I look forward to seeing her in everything now. I think she's fantastic. That being said, the problem, and don't get me wrong, I am not trashing on Zendaya's performance in Dune. I thought she was quite good. But I don't think she was great. I think she was quite good, but I don't think it's the best performance we've seen her give. I think she's capable of much better, and I think she'll give us much better. But I didn't think she was great in Dune 2. And the thing was not because she was relatable. Being relatable is important. That's very, very important. But my problem is her performance as Chani had echoes of Kevin Costner's performance as Robin Hood in Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves. A movie I love, by the way. I completely love, by the way. But in Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves, which is a movie I adore, but Kevin Costner, for those of you who haven't seen it, has this tendency to sometimes sound like he's speaking with an English accent, and then he kind of floats out of that accent and starts talking more like a Western American kind of guy. And then a little bit later, he'll come back and he'll start speaking as if he was born in England again. And then it kind of floats out. And then he just sounds like a guy from Montana talking, right? And again, and I love the movie and I love him in it. But Zendaya has kind of the same problem where sometimes in the movie, she speaks like a Fedaykin of the Siege on Arrakis, right? She comes across as somebody native to Arrakis, that she is a warrior and she speaks as such. And then more than every now and again in the movie, that kind of fades away and she sounds like a girl talking like she's from New Jersey. And then that would stop and she'd start sounding like she was from Arrakis again. Again, very relatable when she's speaking like somebody from Arrakis because of the positions she takes and her actions in the movie. That's what makes her relatable. But it kind of flowed in and out, right? And the moments when she sounded more like a girl from New Jersey, it would pull me out of the scenes a little bit. Kind of like every once in a while when Kevin Costner would sound more like a guy from Montana, it would pull me out for just a minute. And again, I think she's very good. She's good in the movie. She's good. But I look forward to the next Dune movie because I know she herself will recognize this. I know she will. And she's going to correct it and improve upon it because I know she's capable of that. She's a fantastic actress. She's an award-winning actress, and she's going to kill it. She's going to absolutely kill it. Yeah. So there's that. It is what it is. Either you recognize it or you don't. But that's just what I saw. That she does not stay consistent. Javier Bardem is consistently Stilgar. He never becomes Javier Bardem. Timothy Chalamet is constantly Paul. He never becomes Timothy Chalamet. Rebecca Ferguson is always Jessica. She's never Rebecca Ferguson. She's Jessica. I found that there are times when Zendaya is Chani and times that Zendaya is Zendaya in the movie. But again, it wasn't even bad. I mean, she was still so good in so many scenes that's fine. And I look forward that she'll only improve upon it. She will only get better because, again, make no mistake, Zendaya is a fabulous actress. She's an award-winning actress, and she's going to kill it in the next one. I have no doubt she's going to kill it in the next one. All right, next up. Let's see here. JM None Other writes, question. Which movie theoretically would make more money opening weekend if it came out in May this year? No competition. Holland's Spider-Man 4, Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man 4, or Garfield's Amazing Spider-Man 3. Each film takes place after events of No Way Home. Okay. Remember, you are not asking me which one would I most want to see. You're asking me if Tom Holland's Spider-Man 4, Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man 4, or Garfield's Amazing Spider-Man 3 all came out, no other competition, everything else being equal, which one makes more money? The one I'd be most interested in seeing is Andrew Garfield's The Amazing Spider-Man 3, but this is not even close. The movie that would make most money, guys, this isn't even close, is Tom Holland's Spider-Man 4. Like, if you don't understand that, I don't know what to tell you. And you can think that Tobey Maguire's movies are better. That's fair. You can think Andrew Garfield's movies are better. That's fair. But the reality is that Tom Holland's Spider-Man 4 is the current Spider-Man. Maguire's Spider-Man was how many years ago? What year? When did Tobey Maguire Spider-Man come out? I can't remember. It was like 2003, 2002. So we're talking like this. You're talking about a movie franchise that is decades old. Okay. There's a big group of moviegoers out there who have never seen Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man films. I'm not saying a majority of people haven't seen Tobey Maguire Spider-Man films, but I'm saying there's a lot of people out there that have not seen the Tobey Maguire Spider-Man films. And the last Tobey Maguire Spider-Man movie wasn't so good. But today you have a current Spider-Man whose last movie made almost $2 billion at the box office. Collectively, his movies have made close to $4 billion over the three, and all three of them have been wonderful. Far From Home, No Way Home, what's that? Homecoming, Far From Home, and No Way Home. Guys, but the current one is the one that would make the most money. It just is. That's not a slam on my favorite Spider-Man, Andrew Garfield. That's not a slam on an all-time great Spider-Man and Tobey Maguire at all. But guys, I mean, this isn't hard. You got to take your personal feelings out of it. There is a current running Spider-Man. And that current running Spider-Man is making billions at the box office. And I'm not saying Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man 3 wouldn't make money. I'm not saying Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man 4 wouldn't make money. I'm not saying that. But if you're asking me which one makes the most money, guys, it's not a hard question. It's not a hard question. the current reigning Spider-Man, Tom Holland. That's the one that would make the most money. The one that is current, the one that is a part of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, the one that was in Endgame, the one that said, I don't want to go, Mr. Stark, in Infinity War, and everybody across the world cried. It's not a difficult question. That is the one that would make more money. That's not a subjective issue. I mean, that's the one that would make more money. Not saying it's the one that would be the best movie. That could be the Tobey one. It could be the Andrew one. It's not even the one I would choose to go see. I would choose the Andrew Garfield one. But it doesn't matter what I'd be more excited about or which one's my favorite. That's irrelevant. The question you asked me is, all other things being equal, those 3 movies get released in theater in May. I think you're crazy if you don't recognize that clearly it's going to be the Tom Holland one. It may not be the better one, but that's the one that'll make more money. Easily, not even close. I would go so far as to say at minimum, it would double what either Andrew Garfield or Tobey Maguire's would. At minimum, it would double it. I'm not going to say triple it, but it would at minimum double it. So yeah, to me, that's pretty easy. That's pretty easy. All right. Next up, we've got Twilight Boy, who writes, last time I wrote in, you said casual audiences would look at Paul as the hero by the end of Dune 2, 100%. Well, I asked some of my casual viewer friends, and most agreed that he had broke bad. Okay, you asked your friends. All right. All of them cited him leaving Zendaya as an example of it. Of course, this is all anecdotal. I guess we'll find out for sure when Messiah drops. P.S. I quite enjoyed Kung Fu Panda 4. It was my girlfriend's favorite of the series. Bring on the filthy, and God bless you and Anne. Well, thank you for that. Wait a minute. Your friends thought he was now a bad guy because he asked the princess to marry him? That's odd. I mean, right from Dune 1, Paul made it clear that what they had to do for his plan to work, he has to marry the Emperor's princess. That's how he gets power of the universe. He's got to marry. That's the strategic alliance. Early in Dune Part 2, his mother reminds him that your hand has to be reserved for a strategic alliance with the Emperor's daughter. That's what has to happen. If you want the Fremen to survive, if you want our family to live, you got to marry the Emperor's daughter. You got to unite with the daughter. That's the only hope we got. That's the only hope there is. So at the end, when Paul turns to her and says, and even earlier, when she convinces him to go south, he says to her, okay, I'll go south and then I will do what must be done. And he says, I'll love you as long as I breathe. And then in the throne room, right before he makes his intentions known that he's going to take the Emperor's hand, he says to Zendaya again, I need you to know that I will love you as long as I breathe. Again, I'm not saying he made the right decision. Well, he did make the right decision, but for strategic reasons. But that's a sign of him being a villain. That's an odd choice. That's an odd choice for your friends to have. Again, he lays it out in part 1, talked about it earlier in part 2, and then it falls through in part 3, and we know why he has to do it. At any rate, again, no, the vast, again, I would propose that if you were to set up surveyors outside of an average movie theater and survey 1,000 people coming out of Dune 2, and you ask average movie-going fans, is Paul Atreides the hero of the movie? 95% of them are going to say yes. Now, ask them that again after Dune Messiah. That might be a different answer. But coming out of it is, he literally saves his people. He saves his family. He saves the Fremen. He saves Arrakis. But we'll see what comes. We'll see what comes later. All right, guys. That'll do it for the tip questions that you guys have sent in. We're now going to move over and start taking the live questions that you guys have sent in. And just so you know, I am turning off the super chats because I forgot to turn them off a few minutes ago. We have filled up on super chats. I am turning off the super chats right now. But before we get to the super chats that you guys have been sending in live, we're going to take a quick minute here and thank a couple of sponsors of our episode today, our friends at Miracle Made and Harry's. Guys, we want to take a second to thank a sponsor of today's video, Miracle Made. Did you know that your temperature at night can have one of the greatest impacts on your sleep quality? If you wake up too hot or too cold, I highly recommend you check out Miracle Made's bed sheets. Inspired by NASA, Miracle Made uses silver-infused fabrics and makes temperature-regulating bedding so that you can sleep at the perfect temperature all night long. When they arrived at our house, my wife Ann loved the feel of them so much, she couldn't even wait for me to get home to put them on our bed. Miracle Made has self-cleaning. These sheets are infused with silver that prevents up to 99.7% of bacterial growth, leaving them to stay cleaner and fresh 3 times longer than other sheets. Miracle Sheets also have incredible comfort and quality. Miracle Sheets are luxuriously comfortable without the high price tag of other luxury brands and feel as nice, if not nicer, than sheets used by some 5-star hotels. So go to TryMiracle, that's TryMiracle.com/Campea to try Miracle Made sheets today. And whether you're buying them for yourself or as a gift for a loved one, if you order today, you can save over 40%. And if you use our promo code Campea at checkout, you'll get 3 free towels and save an extra 20%. Miracle is so confident in their product, it's backed with a 30-day money-back guarantee. So if you aren't 100% satisfied, you will get a full refund. So upgrade your sleep with Miracle Made. Go to TryMiracle.com/Campea and use the code Campea to claim your free 3-piece towel set and save over 40% off. Again, that's TryMiracle.com/Campea to treat yourself. Guys, we want to take a second to thank a sponsor of today's video, Harry's. You know, guys, in order to start the John Campea Show, I had to leave my high-paying corporate job in order to set myself up to be happier and enjoy more personal success. Because sometimes to get what you want, you have to challenge the status quo and blaze your own trail. And that's exactly what the folks at Harry's did. You see, at Harry's, they saw customers getting ripped off by questionable products in the shaving industry and decided to do something better. Harry's decided to pave their own road by making beautifully designed razors for a fraction of the price of the other big brands. Exceptional products, honest prices. That's Harry's. I have fallen in love with Harry's, from their foaming shaving gel that feels just luxurious on the skin to their incredible razor that feels just as good in the hand as it does going over your skin. They've got rich, lathering, skin-softening body wash in scents like redwood, wildlands, and stone. You see, Harry's provides German-engineered blades made in their own factory that stay sharp longer. You can get a 5-blade razor, weighted handle, foaming shave gel, and a travel cover for just $3 at harrys.com/Campea. Don't settle for the status quo. Blaze your own trail with Harry's. Get started with a $13 trial set for just $3 at harrys.com/Campea. That's harrys.com/Campea for a $3 trial set. And thank you to our friends at Miracle Made and Harry's for sponsoring today's episode. All right, guys, with that down, let's get over to the live questions that you guys have been sending in here, shall we? We're going to get things started up here with John Redcorn, who writes, Russ to the Steelers. Yeah, that was crazy. I think the Steelers are going to, we'll see. We'll see how Russell Wilson turns out. But Russ to the Steelers, Saquon Barkley to Philly, Josh Jacobs to Green Bay, and Kirk Cousins to Atlanta. Holy free agency Batman. Hope Derrick Henry goes to Houston. I'll tell you what, unpopular opinion, I am one of those rare people out there that really believes in Kirk Cousins. When you look at his actual stats, Kirk Cousins puts up really good numbers and is always just limited by the team around him. You send him to Atlanta that's got some great offensive weapons and has invested heavily in their offensive line. I think out of all these moves, the team that is going to have the biggest impact with their free agency signing is Kirk Cousins going to Atlanta. Don't get me wrong. I'm not sitting here telling you Atlanta's about to win the Super Bowl, but I'm saying Russ to the Steelers is going to have an impact. Saquon to Philly is going to have an impact, and so on and so forth. But Kirk Cousins going to Atlanta is going to have the biggest impact out of all the free agency moves. All right. Maybe I'm right. Maybe I'm wrong. We'll find out. Dr. Stinky writes, I disagree that Tim, I'm assuming you mean Timothy Chalamet, is too old to play a high school or a college student. Let me remind you, Joe Carey is 32, playing a 16 to 19-year-old, and he's convincing. See, here's the thing that film fans always do. You take small exceptions and pretend like it's a common thing. Like, we had this conversation earlier today on the John Campea Show, where somebody brought up, Hollywood needs to look at Godzilla -1, a great movie that they made for only $15 million. So it needs to look at Godzilla -1. See, that's the way you do it. But I had to remind all of us that, but for every one Godzilla -1, that's a $15 million movie that becomes a huge international hit. It still didn't even have all that many people see it, but still, there's 90 others that fail, never get picked up, and never get seen by anybody. To say, look, there's an actor who's in their 30s and they're playing a high school student. Okay, yeah, but this isn't the days of Beverly Hills 90210 when they literally had like 29-year-olds playing a high school student. I mean, like as an audience, we're much more sensitive to that stuff now. Like, what was the name of the movie, guys? The movie that just a couple of years ago, it was a musical and they ended up casting the guy from the original Broadway play who was now in his 30s to play the high school student. What was the name of that movie? You know the one I'm talking. Me and Aaron Cummings got into a big argument about it. Do any of you guys remember the name of that movie? Thank you, Ross. Ross and K Major got it, but Ross was the first one to do it. Dear Evan Hansen. Remember that? So they got this guy who was in his 30s to play a high school student, and everybody bagged on it. Everybody bagged on it. I did too, and rightfully so. It was ridiculous. It's ridiculous. Now, I get it. Acting means playing somebody that you are not. I get that. But there is no need at all to get a 30-year-old or a 31 or a 32-year-old to play a 17-year-old or something like that, right? Timothée Chalamet, who can pass for younger, make no mistake. Timothée Chalamet is now 28 years old. By the time you got rolling on a potential, because we were talking about not Batman Begins, but Batman Beyond earlier. By the time you got rolling on any kind of a Batman Beyond thing, Timothée Chalamet is going to be 30. Pukey McFisty is supposed to be in high school. That's what Chris tells me. He's supposed to be a high school student. It's just ridiculous. And Timothée Chalamet, who right now is really just going to be spending the rest of his career trying to collect as many Oscars as possible, would never do it anyway. But and pointing out to one or two or three current examples, yeah, that's fine. But for every two or three current examples, there's 500 examples are showing no, why you go with younger actors to play younger roles. You don't need a 17-year-old to play a 17-year-old. You can get a 21-year-old to play a 17-year-old. You can get a 23-year-old to play a 17-year-old. You can do that. But once you get into the 30s, once you get into your 30s, that's becoming a bit of a stretch. And you, for sure, Dr. Stinky, you can find a couple of like a few exceptions, sure. But the fact that they're exceptions just kind of proves the point, right? I don't think you should be going for people in their 30s to do that. By the way, Living Boris is like, Erin was a great talking head. Yeah, and she is doing well. She's doing great. Her and Tom just had another baby. Well, it's been a couple of months now, but her and Tom had another kid. They now have two. They're living up in New York and they're doing great. So thank you for asking. All right. Next up. We've got, if I hit the right button, there we go. Thanks for running that in, Dr. Stinky. Chef Rigo writes, I saw Dune 2 last night at the AMC and Universal City Walk in IMAX. What a great movie, but man, what a great movie theater overall. Yeah, listen, the IMAX at the AMC Universal City Walk right in Burbank is a fabulous theater. It's really fabulous. I would recommend, Chef Rigo, if you've never gone, there's another IMAX screen not too far in Irvine, California, at the Irvine Spectrum Center. It's the big Regal Theater at the Irvine Spectrum Center. And the IMAX in there, I think, is the second biggest IMAX in California. Ann and I are going to go watch Dune there, I think this week sometime. We haven't seen it on that screen yet, but we're going to go this week sometime. I'm sure it's going to be a lot of fun. All right. Let's see here. Next up, we've got Thinking Man, who writes, Oscars were great. Favorite moment was Jonathan Glazer's speech. Poetic that the Zone of Interest director was the one who spoke up about Gaza. I think, somebody else brought that up on the John Campea Show today. I think that might be the one speech that I missed. Because even when they were mentioning what was said in the speech, I'm like, I don't recall this. It must have been one of the times that I ran to the bathroom or something. It's one that I missed. So I didn't get to see it. But to your point, Thinking Man, somebody else wrote in about that earlier today as well. All right. Next up, Alex Von Gollum writes, here in Canada, if you want to watch the Oscars, you've got to have cable to have CTV. I'm a cable cutter, so I couldn't watch it. There's no alternative. Yes, there were. Now, even as a cable cutter, there was an alternative to watch it. You can get, I believe, YouTube TV. I'm a YouTube TV subscriber, so I use YouTube TV on my Google Chromecast and on my Roku and on my Apple TV and, on and on and on. And that's how we watched the Oscars, was through that. So as a cord cutter, you could have watched it through YouTube TV. Or there's a Canadian version of that as well. What's it called in Canada? I mean, I think either Sling or something like that. Anyway, that would have been an alternative as well. But because what network was it on? Was it on ABC? Help me out. I think it was ABC, right? Yeah. The Oscars were on ABC. Since it was broadcast on ABC, Blackberry's saying Crave. If you had Crave, you could have watched it. But because it was on ABC, I don't know why Disney didn't, because ABC is owned by Disney. I don't know why they didn't put it on Disney Plus or on Hulu. Now, maybe there was a rights issue with, the Academy that said they wouldn't put it on there. But it's strange to me, especially as we're moving towards more of a cord cutting society, why they wouldn't have also put it on one of those streaming platforms. I mean, hell, they put the NFL playoffs on the streaming platforms now. But yes, I think if you had Crave, you could have watched it there. But again, it's really a weird. I don't think you're going to see that happen again, though. I don't think you're going to see that happen again. I think they're going to make changes moving forward. Anyway, thanks for bringing that up, Alex. All right, Murray Reich sends in a $20 super chat. Thank you, Murray, for supporting our channel on that level, man, as you usually do. Who writes in, I'm not a big fan of the Oscars, but bravo to Kimmel for dropping the AMC theater trailer joke. I love the AMC joke. Also, the I'm Just Ken bit was great, but the only reason I came to watch was for Nolan and Oppenheimer winning. Cheers. And you know what, Murray? That is exactly why a number of years ago, they made the move to like 10 nominees. The big one is the one to do it with. The big one, which is, of course, Best Picture. That's the one you expand to 10 nominees. And yeah, and it works. By the way, interesting thing here. Did you know there was a movie? See if any of you can name this. There is a movie that got nominated for Best Actor, Best Actress, Best Supporting Actor, Best Screenplay, Best Song, but didn't win any Academy Awards, but it did win Best Picture. Can any of you guess what movie that was? I just found this out today. So a movie so I'm looking in the live chat to see if any of you know what it was. And no, it wasn't Madam Web. But there was a movie at the Academy Awards that was nominated for Best Actor, Best Actress, Best Supporting Actor, Best Screenplay, Best Song, and it didn't win any of them, but it did win Best Picture. Not Crash. Some people are saying Crash. It's not Crash. Wasn't The Grand Hotel. I don't think The Grand Hotel won Best Picture at the Academy Awards. Wasn't The Sound of Music. Wasn't Titanic. Wasn't Argo. Wasn't Green Book. Wasn't Citizen Kane. Wasn't The Pianist. Wasn't Spotlight. Wasn't Dune. It was Rocky. The original Sylvester Stallone movie, Rocky. If I have the trivia right. Rocky was the movie that did that. Anyway, why did I bring that up? No reason. It was just an interesting trivia question I had heard today. I thought that is really interesting. So I thought I'd throw it out there for you guys to see if any of you knew it. All right. Next up, we've got Bruce Lum, who writes, Saw Dune 2 a second time, but on a 70 millimeter IMAX theater, but was shocked to see the picture graininess in some close-up shots. Really? Didn't notice this on a smaller IMAX screen. Is this to be expected? That shouldn't happen. That should not happen. Yeah, no, that you should not have that unless graininess was actually sand that looked like graininess, but that shouldn't happen. And no, that is not to be expected. I mean, I'm going to go see it again. I haven't seen it on a 70 millimeter IMAX screen yet. I'm going to go see that. Somebody's saying I have mic issues. Everything looks like it's working fine on the mic. At any rate, it definitely shouldn't be doing that. There should not be graininess. I listen, when Ann and I go to see it at the Irvine Spectrum, which is the second biggest IMAX screen in the state, I'm going to go check that out and I will report back if I see any of that, but there definitely shouldn't be there. Definitely should not be there. Okay. Next up, we've got Murray Reich, who writes, full circle moment for both Nolan and Robert Downey Jr. Back in 2008, Dark Knight and Iron Man went toe-to-toe. Heath won an Oscar for his performance as Joker. Now Robert Downey Jr. joined forces with Nolan, and this time he won an Oscar. It really was a great full circle moment for Robert Downey Jr., an actor who started out kind of as a prestige actor. Of course, he was nominated for an Academy Award for Chaplin, and then his career kind of fell apart. His career didn't fall apart. He sabotaged his own career. He caused his own pain and suffering. But he was able to pull himself back up. He was able to get back in there. Obviously got cast as Iron Man, had a second life as an actor. There was the Robert Downey Jr. before Iron Man, and then there's the Robert Downey Jr. post Iron Man. Then he became this big household name as Iron Man. And then post Iron Man now, he's in his post Iron Man stage. So the third stage of his career. And he's come back to being on the stage at the Academy Awards and actually winning his Oscar. It was a beautiful moment for him. Again, I would have been really, really happy if Paul Giamatti had won or if Jeffrey Wright had won. But you guys remember in my out of theater reaction to Oppenheimer, it's like Robert Downey Jr. is going to get an Academy Award nomination for this. He's fabulous in it. And I was really, really, it's a beautiful moment seeing him win that. It really was. All right. Next up. We got Aiden Foley, who writes, watching The Shield for the first time, damn good. Listen, there is a reason that in the hardcore TV file circles, there are a couple of shows that get thrown around. Most of the hardcore guys will say that The Wire is maybe the best television show ever made. But one of the other shows that gets mentioned in those circles is The Shield. The Shield was a hell of a show. A lot of people love it dearly. It's got a huge place on the all-time list for sure. All right, next up, we got Kevin Frazier, who writes, hey, John, I don't want to agree with your credit theory for streaming, but you may be onto something. There was a time Disney didn't charge to cut the line, and now it's normal. Listen, so earlier today on the John Campea Show, for any of you who didn't see it, I talked about ways that streaming is going to get a lot more expensive. And one of the things that I said, I believe in the next few years, like not today, but in the next few years, you're going to see streaming services move to a credit system where it's like, okay, when you pay your $20 a month to be a member, I'm just going to say, we'll just use Netflix as an example. Okay. When you pay your $20 to join Netflix, you actually get like 300 credits. And like every time you watch a half-hour show, that costs 1 credit. Every time you watch an hour-long show, that's 2 credits. If you watch a full movie, that's a 3-credit thing. If you're watching a brand new premium show, that's double the cost. So that's like a 5 credits, right? And you get 300 credits. And then if you run out of credits, you can buy extra credits for the month until you get your new batch of credits next month. Now, for everybody who says, no, they won't do that. Really? Because here's the thing. These streaming services, like, before there were the streaming services were even there, online services started to go to subscription models. And so then the entertainment, the broadcast, the streamers, that come along streamers now, they're a part of the subscription model. And then the subscription model evolved. Nobody would have believed when the streamers started, nobody would have believed we were going to get tons of commercials in them. But where are we now? Now there are ad tiers they're trying to get everybody to sign up for, and they're throwing in ads on everything. Even the platforms themselves, Roku has their own ads before you even go into Disney Plus. Google Chromecast has ads right there in the interface they're peppering ads everywhere now. That's part of it. That people I once said would have said never would happen. Believe me, a time is coming when they're going to do that credit system. They're going to do it. We're already seeing it in a lot of other services, right? We're already seeing it in a lot of other services. Like there's a lot of online services that are like, oh, you pay this per month and you get this many credits to generate AI images, to do audio stuff, to do certain research things or whatever you get. It's on a credit basis. That's only going to get more and more popular and adopted. And I think the streamers are going to adopt it too. I don't think in 2024, but I think it's coming. I do think it's coming. And I hope I'm wrong, man, because that's going to be super irritating if they do. All right. Let's see here. Alex Von Gollum writes, even more so with Dune 2, I'd love to see Denis direct a Star Wars movie. Oh, me too. I mean, and Denis is a huge Star Wars guy. I know it's kind of repetitive. No, Star Wars and Dune are very different stories. Let's be they both happen in outer space, but they're extremely different movies, right? Couldn't be more different. To see how he'd film spaceships entering planets. Yeah, listen, Listen, my number one dream as a Star Wars fan is to see Steven Spielberg direct a Star Wars movie. But I think my number two dream for a Star Wars movie would be to see Denis Villeneuve direct a Star Wars movie. That would be awesome, man. I'd be all about that, Alex. All right, next up. YT writes, John, you ever see the movie Code 8, the Stephen Amell one? And Code 8 Part 2 with good Canadian kid Stephen Amell. I think they are really solid movies. And correct me if I'm wrong, wasn't his cousin, wasn't Liam? No, not Liam. What's Stephen Amell's cousin's name who stars in Upload, the Amazon series? That's a show my wife loves, by the way. But what's the name of Stephen Amell's cousin? He was also Robbie Amell. That's who it is, Robbie. Thank you, guys. Ross was the first one to put that in there. So thank you, Ross. Yes, Robbie Amell was also in that. I liked the first one. I never saw the second one, though. And I'm a big Stephen Amell fan. I really like Stephen a lot. And most of you guys know the story and you know why I'm such a big Stephen Amell fan. And I will always support Stephen Amell and I'll always be a big fan of his. But I didn't see the second one, to be honest with you. But I thought the first one was pretty good. I don't know. I don't think it was great. I don't think it's the best thing. But by the way, Stephen Amell going to be in that Suits. It's not a reboot. It's not a continuation, but it happens. It's going to be a new Suits show. For those of you who may not have heard of this, is coming, and it's going to be. But this one's going to take place in L.A., not New York. And it's going to take place in the same universe and in the same world as the other Suits. But there's something, and Stephen Amell is leading it, which I'm really excited about. I'm super thrilled for him in that. All right. Next up, we've got Isaac Martinez who writes, as much as I like The Zone of Interest, Perfect Days should have won. It's a beautiful film that connects with people like me. Enjoy your life. I don't think I'm familiar with Perfect Days, to be honest. I'm a bit bummed about Paul Giamatti, considering he is one of my favorite actors. But I think it's nice to see Cillian Murphy win first timers. Listen, this was one of those things where it tells you how good of a year it was in movies when there are literally multiple names that could have won that we would be totally good with. Like, honestly, who would have complained if Jeffrey Wright had won for Best Lead Actor, given how fucking amazing he is in American fiction? Nobody would have complained. I mean, nobody who's not stupid would have complained. May not have been our first pick, but I mean, he was so good, there is absolutely nothing to complain about. Jeffrey Wright won. Paul Giamatti turns in, I don't think the best performance of his career, but one of the best performances of his career. He's insanely good in The Holdovers. Nobody with half a brain would have complained if he had won. And Cillian Murphy does turn in the performance of a lifetime for him. He was remarkable in Oppenheimer. He carries an all-star cast. He's absolutely incredible. He's been like the bridesmaid in Hollywood for so many years, and absolutely nobody should be complaining that he won. That's how good it was this year, that you had multiple names that maybe I would have voted for this guy, not this guy, but if this guy had won, no complaints. I mean, you can't complain about it because they were so freaking good. And I think that'd be great. All right. Next up, we've got Andy Fish Chips, who writes, listen to Veronica by Muse. Perfect tone for Highlander reboot, in my opinion. I'll ask again on the John Campea Show in the next few days, if okay. Thanks for the last 12 years. I have no interest in listening to Veronica by Muse. I don't really care who they pick to do music for the Highlander. Only they know the tone for the Highlander that they're going to do. So only they will know what tone of music they should go for. I mean, we've already heard that they're going to use some of the Queen soundtrack, which is great. But again, unless we know what the actual tone of the movie is going to be, we can't say what music would be perfect for it, right? Because you haven't seen the movie. You haven't read the script. You and I both have no idea what the right music for that movie would be because we don't know what they're going to do with it. So we'll just wait. We'll wait and find out, Andy. We'll wait and find out. And then after we see the movie, then we'll have some thoughts and opinions about what music maybe should have been in there. Let's see. Mr. Godzilla runs. I guess we can say Godzilla -1 with WON 1. Ta-dum tis. Yeah. Oh yeah. I'll give you that. Godzilla. Yeah. I mean, like a lot of people thought I personally thought it should have been nominated for Best International Feature. But Japan didn't pick it. Japan chose to send another film to be its representative. Actually, I think it would have given like Zone of Interest a run for its money. All right. SK Zhang writes, there's a video going around showing how Robert Downey Jr. completely ignored Ke Huy Quan and Emma Stone ignored Michelle Yeoh and went straight for Jen Lawrence. People are calling them racist. What the hell, right? Oh, that's stupid. That's stupid. Look, you got a big group of people, like you're maybe zoned in or one or two, you go to shake hands and whatever. Guys, you're on live TV in front of tens of millions of people and all this kind of stuff. Anybody who's writing stuff like that is purposefully being stupid. Ray Loves Trench Coats writes, Ricky Stenicki is pretty funny. I'm glad you laughed. Ricky Stenicki is not funny. Ricky Stenicki was not good, man. And I love Zac Efron and I love John Cena. And I thought the trailer for Ricky Stenicki was hilarious. I loved the trailer for it. I couldn't wait to watch this movie. And then like me and even a couple friends came over so we could sit down and watch Ricky Stenicki. Whew, that movie was rough. That movie was rough. Had a couple of moments, but overall it was a pretty bad movie, unfortunately. And I was so excited for it. I love everybody involved with it, but listen, the important thing here though, is that you watched it, Ray Loves Trench Coats, and you liked it. That's the important thing. And I'm glad you had a good time with it. And I'm glad you laughed. I wish I did, but I really didn't, unfortunately. All right. Next up, Mr. I writes, I admit I teared up a little bit when the orchestra played the Godzilla theme. Well, hey, listen, why not? Why not? Right? If you enjoy it and that comes on and it moves you, by all means, man, that's great. All right, Kyle McComb writes, Killers of the Flower Moon song gave me chills. Oh, I love that they did that. I'm telling you what, I love when stuff like that comes into the Oscars because there's something, that music is powerful and it emotes or it elicits an emotional response. Like you hear it and I don't know why. I feel my blood start flowing. It was pretty damn cool. Listen, the I'm Just Ken performance was one of the great performances at the Oscars ever. But I honestly really do think, and I wouldn't have said this before, but I really think the right song won. The Billie Eilish, and I keep forgetting the name of her brother, because it is both of them that wrote it. But the Billie Eilish song, I mean, I know the song. I clearly I know the song, but when I was actually watching them perform it at the Oscars, and I'm thinking about the scenes in the movie that it's playing with, and I'm like, yeah, this is the song that should win. And it did, and they got it right. And it really, Phineas, thank you. That's her brother's name, Phineas. The right one won. The right one won. All right, next up, we go to, who was that? That was Kyle McComb. James Wheeler sends in a $20 super chat. Thank you, James, for supporting us on that level, man. Emma Stone has been nominated for Birdman, La La Land, The Favorite, and 2 for Poor Things. I guess when they said her five, you know what? That's a very, very good point, because they announced that it was her 5th. I'm going to pull this up quickly. They announced at the Academy Awards she had 5 nominations. I just assumed those were all for acting. And you know what they say about assuming? Assuming makes an ass out of you and you. So I'm just going to double check here if IMDb will open. And IMDb is not opening for me. I was going to pull up exactly which. Yeah, IMDb isn't opening. Let me try this again. Oh, there it is. Now it's opening up. Okay, so if we go to this. Okay, one of her nominations is for Best Motion Picture of the Year, because I guess she's one of the producers of the movie. Okay, so that's one. So performance for that. Performance for The Favorite, performance for La La Land, performance for acting. So 1, 2, 3, 4. So she's got 4 acting nominations, not 5. The one was as a producer. That doesn't count. So yeah, so for Birdman, La La Land, which of course she won her Academy Award for, The Favorite, and now she won her 2nd one for Poor Things. Okay, I'm glad you brought that up, man. Thank you for bringing that up, because I was like, I was struggling to think about what the 5th one was, but they said 5. So wow, she's got 5 nominations. I totally didn't even think that one of them might have been for producer. Thank you for pointing that out, man. That's why it's great that we have the community here. Thank you for that, James. Appreciate that, man. And thank you for supporting our channel on that level. It's really generous of you, man. All right, next up. Kyle McComb writes, Wes Anderson has an Oscar now, though it's a short. You know what? Oscar's an Oscar. I'll be honest. Listen, I never even heard of any of the shorts that were nominated. And when they were going through the nominees list, such and such, produced by producer Wes Anderson, I'm like, what? Wes Anderson did a short? And when they played the clip from it, you instantly knew it was a Wes Anderson movie. Like, Didn't it look like, couldn't you instantly tell when they started to show a clip from the short? It's like, oh yeah, that tracks. This is totally Wes. Just from looking at 2 seconds of a clip, you could tell it was a Wes Anderson film. But good for Wes. He's got his Academy Award. That's awesome. All right. Mr. Godzilla writes, glad Godzilla won after 70 years, but we'll always wonder why Japan didn't select Godzilla as their entry for Best Foreign Film. They felt the film they did submit was better. I mean, you and I can disagree with them on that, but I haven't seen the other film, so I can't comment. But they saw both films, and they felt the other film was the better film. And unless you or I have seen that other film, we can't disagree, right? You can't say they got it wrong. Well, did you see the other movie? Be honest. No, you didn't. Well, then we can't say they got it wrong. I can't say they got it wrong because I haven't seen the other one. Out of those 2, I only saw Godzilla -1. I know Godzilla -1 was fantastic, but maybe the other one was better. Maybe if I watched the other one, I would think it was better. So, we'll see. All right. I doubt it, but I mean, it might. It might, Mr. Godzilla. It might. All right. Next up. Let's see here. We got John Redcorn who writes, regarding Peacemaker, Gunn clarified that most of what happened in season 1 did happen in the DCU. There will be certain things that don't, i.e. Justice League cameo. Well, look, here's the thing. Canon is like pregnancy. A girl is not sort of pregnant. She's either pregnant or she's not. Canon is the same thing. You can't say, well, this thing's canon, except for this part, and this part. Well, then it's not canon. It's either canon or it's not. I remember Star Wars started to play that game where they remember when Disney took over Star Wars and said, from now on, everything's canon. The video games are canon. The books are canon. The comic books are canon. The movies are canon. The TV shows are canon. It's all going to be canon. And I remember what I said when they first made that announcement. I was still at AMC, and I said on one of our videos on our show, I said, they are never going to be able to make this work because it's going to become too convoluted. You're going to have too many different storytellers doing too many different things, and things are going to start to contradict, and they're not going to be able to hold it. And it only lasted a little while because pretty soon books started having things in their books that were not consistent with something that would happen in the movies. And then this would happen. And then they started saying, I remember Pablo Hidalgo, who's great, by the way, but I remember him saying, well, when it's consistent with everything else, it's canon. When it's not consistent, then it's not canon. It's like, no. It's either canon or it's not. So it's fine to say Peacemaker Season 1 is not canon. That doesn't mean that some things that happen in Peacemaker Season 1 can't be brought over. Of course it can. It doesn't mean that everything in Peacemaker Season 1 becomes wiped away. Just like when they did Thrawn, right? The Thrawn trilogy of books are not canon, never have been from the day they were written. You know, Heir to the Empire, that series was never canon. But that doesn't mean they can't take elements of that and bring it into the new Star Wars. That doesn't make Heir to the Empire canon. It's not. But you can still take a bunch of things from it and bring it over. And I think when James Gunn is saying, look, Peacemaker Season 1 is not canon of the DCU, that gives now him the freedom to like take whatever he wants to take from Season 1 and bring it over. But the show itself, the season is not canon. Therefore, just because they bring something over or maybe even a bunch of stuff over from Season 1, that doesn't mean the other things that happened in Season 1 were canon either. So we'll see. We'll see how that goes. All I know, John, is that I am super excited for Season 2 of Peacemaker. Super excited for it. All right. Next up, we got Motor World Hype, who writes, settle the Ryan debate. Ryan Gosling pronounces it Putin. Oh, no, well, he's wrong. It's not Putin. It's Poutine. Ryan Reynolds pronounces it Poutine. That's exactly how you pronounce it. Use your Canadian powers and tell us which is the correct way to pronounce Poutine. It's the way Ryan Reynolds says it. It's Poutine. It's not Putin. That's the president of Russia. Putin is the president of Russia. It is not the delicious, although extremely unhealthy, Canadian delicacy, poutine. But listen, it's whatever. It's French fries covered with cheese and gravy. Who cares? If Ryan Gosling wants to call it poutine, if that's how he says it, that's how he says it. God bless him. But if you don't want to look weird in front of a Canadian, pronounce it properly. It is poutine. T-E-E-N. Poutine. Winnie the Pooh? Who goes to a high school? A teen. Poutine. That is how you say it. It is a proper pronunciation. All right. Thanks for that, Motor. Next up, we got Blake Wilson who writes, hey, John, how significant was it to have Spielberg be the one give Nolan his Oscar, like passing of the torch? It was extremely beautiful. It couldn't have been more perfect for Christopher Nolan to win his first Academy Award and have his hero be the one that present it to him. The greatest of all time, handing it to maybe the best today. There's a very good argument to be had about who is the best today. It's either Denis Villeneuve or it's Christopher Nolan. And by the way, no two guys could be bigger fans of each other. Like they are both, Denis and Christopher are both constantly raving about each other and how great the other is, which is wonderful to see. But I mean, it couldn't have been more perfect. I was so happy for Christopher Nolan to finally get that award and to have Steven Spielberg, the greatest of all time, to be the one to hand it to him. It was a beautiful moment, an absolute beautiful moment. All right. Next up, we've got Justice Shines writes, thoughts on casting John Krasinski as Hal Jordan. I don't do X actor and X role things. I mean, look, all I ever care about is, do you cast a good actor? John Krasinski's a good actor, so I'd be fine with it. Other than that, no other real thoughts. All right. Tao Idur. I know I'm mispronouncing that, dude. I agree. Little chance of Batman Beyond movie, but chances are higher with Gunn at the helm, but need successful animated movie first. That's exactly what I said this morning. It's exactly what I said this morning. 100%. Listen, people get real mad at me for saying the truth. People get real mad at me for saying the truth. But, you know, for over a dozen years, we've had people, I've had people telling me that I'm crazy. They're absolutely going to do a Batman Beyond movie any minute now. For over a dozen years. And for a dozen years, I've said, no, they're not. They are not going to do a live action Batman Beyond movie. They're not going to do it. There is no audience demand for it. Nothing. And for 12 years, people have told me crazy. You watch, John, any minute now, you're gonna find out any minute now. Here we are. It's 2024 now. How's that going? Now, my position on a potential Batman Beyond movie changed a bit when Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse came out. When Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse came out, I said, you know what? This makes me and saw how well it worked and how the audience did respond to it. I said, you know what? I think Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse has opened the door for an animated, theatrically released Batman Beyond movie. I think the chances, I didn't say it would happen, but I said the chances now are higher. And I still believe now that if they do an animated film, which I think the chances are now better today than they've ever been, not that they will necessarily do it, but the chances are better than they've ever been. And if that movie is a hit, then the door gets open for a Batman Beyond live action film. Then and only then will it be open for a Batman Beyond live action film. Now, what's hilarious to me, and you know, we're brothers and sisters in film fandom. We get to jab at each other. We get to give each other a hard time, right? That's what we get to do. It's in a friendly environment. So let me jab a little bit here. You know, I hear from people who were passionate fans of Batman Beyond, but what the problem with a lot of fandoms is that sometimes fandoms are not self-aware that their fandom is smaller than they think. I know a lot of people, everybody knows how big of a Supernatural fan I am, right? Everybody knows I'm a huge, huge Supernatural fan. And so sometimes people say to me, John, don't you think they should make a Supernatural movie? And I go, no. Because even though it lasted 15 seasons and all that kind of stuff, the reality was it was a CW show and not enough people watched it. It didn't have the following for it to be, even though I would love it, I would love to see a Supernatural movie. I would love to see them come back and do that. But the reality is that my fan base is not big enough. The Supernatural fan base is not big enough to justify making a feature film out of it. And I find that a lot of people, because in fandoms, if you're a part of a fandom, then probably your friends are in that fandom too. And when you're a fan of something and all the people you talk to, the people in your circle talk to, they're fans of it too, then we create this perception for ourselves that everybody loves this thing, right? This is much likened unto when I got called insane when Detective Pikachu was coming out. And a lot of people thought I was certifiably insane when I insisted Detective Pikachu is not going to make $1 billion. It's not going to make $900 million. It's not going to make $800 million. And so many people thought so many Pokemon fans were so mad at me for saying that. They said, John, you just don't get it. Pokemon is the number one a brand in the world. And you have no idea how many people know Pokemon and love Pokemon, and you just don't get it. All right. Sure. Let's see how it goes. Let me just check this out. Detective Pikachu box office mojo. Let me just bring this up here quick because it made okay money. It didn't bomb. I know it didn't bomb. What did it make here? There we go. Made $433 million. And that's great. That's great. It made $433 million. That's great. But everybody thinks that because they're a fan of something, that if they do the movie of it, it's going to be a big success. I got told the exact same thing when the one with Becky G, when the new Mighty Morphin Power Rangers movie is coming out. If you guys were watching Movie Talk at that time, you remember I got told I was crazy when I said the new Power Rangers movie is not going to be a big hit. It is not. And I had so many people going, John, let me see if I can find this one. There it is. Say, John, you just don't get it. You don't understand. You don't know the generations of people who love Power Rangers. This thing's going to make $700 million. If you guys were watching Movie Talk at that time, you remember that. And I'd be on the show and people were writing in, John is so out of touch. John doesn't get it. Okay, we'll see. The movie made $142 million. It made $142 million. It's like, where's everybody who's telling me I was completely out of touch when I said that Power Rangers wasn't going to be like a $500, $700 million movie? And everybody's saying, I just don't get it. You just don't understand, John. And I'm telling you, it's the same thing with Batman Beyond. I'm just telling you, it's the same thing. Batman Beyond has a passionate but small fan base. And if they make a movie out of it, it ain't going to be the big hit people think it is. Now, I say that, but if they make an animated feature film and they make it great and it resonates with people and people get excited for it and get on board with it and all that kind of stuff, that opens the door for a live action film. I do believe that. I 100% believe that. But it's going to take an animated film first. And if by some stretch of the imagination that the impossible happens and they just decide to do a Batman Beyond movie, period, I don't think it's going to be very successful. But as we've seen in the movie business, anything can happen. Anything can happen. And we'll see. We'll see. I mean, anything can happen. That doesn't mean it's likely to happen, but it can. We'll see. All right. Let's see. Blake Wilson writes, hey, John. So I'm thinking at next year's Oscars, every time Dune wins, the Dune team should stand up and chant, Lisan al-Gaib. Lisan al-Gaib. Yeah. I mean, listen, Dune's going to win a lot of Oscars next year. I'm not saying it's going to win 11 Oscars like Lord of the Rings Return of the King, but it's going to win a bunch of Oscars. I mean, the last one won 6. The next one, 7, 8, 9. It's going to win a lot. It would be pretty cool if they had like a trove of people there to do something like that. All right. Next up, Tevin writes, absolutely loved Dune. Went to the 4:15 showing. The movie started at almost 4:50. That's disgusting. I couldn't believe I was watching this many trailers and commercials. Listen, you guys know my feeling on this. If you are a movie theater, your number one responsibility is to give your movie-going audience the best possible experience. And you are doing a fucking terrible job if you tell an audience member coming into your establishment that you got a movie at 4:15 and you don't start it for 30, 40 minutes after that, then you've already screwed everything up. You're stupid. You're an idiot. AMC, you're fucking morons. You're morons. You are not giving people, you are starting off somebody's experience in your movie theater by making them sit there and look at their watch over and over and over again, saying, I don't know, the thing said movie at 7 o'clock. It's now 7:25 and I'm still watching Nicole Kidman on the screen. Talking about, we come to this place. And I love Nicole Kidman, but come on. You've already lost. Get it through your stupid, idiotic heads. If you tell people the movie starts at 7, start it at 7. Or start it much closer to 7. At least do what the old ArcLight cinemas used to do. 3 trailers, then your movie starts. So I would go to the ArcLight, and if it said 7 p.m. movie, I'm telling you, by 7:15 at the latest, the movie was playing. Like, it's disgusting. It is disgusting. Streaming is not going to kill the movie industry. Everybody said VHS was going to kill the movie industry. It never did. Then DVDs came and said, that's going to kill the movie industry. And it never did. Then Blu-rays came and said, well, that's going to kill the movie theaters. And it never did. Then streaming came along. They said, that's going to kill the movie theaters. And it never did. But you know what's going to kill movie theaters? Movie theaters are going to kill movie theaters. If movie theaters ever die, then on its tombstone will read, movie theaters killed by movie theaters. It's going to be their own fault. It's self-inflicted wounds. They're doing it to themselves. Idiots are running the show right now. Anyway, next up, we've got Tevin again, who writes, I had Gladstone to win, but the moment Emma started giving her speech, I started smiling. Very humble, sweet, and the dress situation was relatable. I love the dress situation. Her dress busted. That was really funny. And I love the way that she looked over at Lily, because all award season, it's been Emma and Lily, Emma and Lily, Emma and Lily. And this was the one category that was a toss-up. But I love the way Emma Stone looked down at Lily and said, you know, it's been amazing. Because normally the winners will just say to all the nominees. But Emma particularly singled out Lily Gladstone. And I thought this was very classy. And said, being on this journey with you has been amazing, going through all awards season with one winning, then the other winning, then the other winning, then the other winning. So she said, like, being on this journey was amazing, and I hope we get to do this for many more years, where like the two of them together will be nominated and go through this thing. I thought that was a very, very classy move. And again, either one of them could have won and it would have been great, but it turned out really, really nice. All right, next up. We got Martial Arts Film Freak, who writes, my big Oscar snub is Chad Stahelski for not being nominated for Best Director. He didn't deserve to be nominated for Best Director. I love Chad, but he did not deserve to be nominated for Best Director. He achieved and conceived of ideas most Hollywood could never, and John Wick 4 looked gorgeous. Cinematography nomination, please. Listen, you guys know I love John Wick 4. I think it's the best of the franchise. I love the film. I think it's incredible. But Chad Stahelski did not get snubbed. He did not deserve a Best Directing nomination, like whatsoever. He just didn't. There's great action choreography, but that's not what you get nominated for Best Director for. So yeah, I'll disagree with you on this, but hey, it's a subjective call. It's a subjective thing, and if you felt he should have been nominated for Best Director, that's great. I disagree. I as much as I love him and I love his movies and I love this movie in particular, John Wick 4 is fantastic. I don't think he seriously deserved to be in that conversation. But again, that's just me. That's just my take on that. Your opinion on this, Martial Arts Freak, is no more and no less valid than mine. I'm just saying we have different opinions on that, and that's totally cool. All right, next up. Let's see. We got John Davidian, who writes, or is it Davidian? I'm going to go with Davidian. John Davidian writes, any chance Emma returns as Gwen in Secret Wars? I'm going to go with a big 0 on that. I mean, would they invite her to come back? Well, they'd be stupid not to invite her, but would she actually do it? My guess is going to be probably a big fat 0 on that. I mean, it would be super cool if she did it. I don't see now, like, she's a mom now. Emma Stone is at the point in her career now where she has her pick of any project she wants to do. And honestly, right now, I think she is now, if I was her representation and her management talking to her, I think I would be talking to her about now getting herself in the best actress of all time conversation. And you're not going to get into that conversation doing Secret Wars. And I say this as a comic book movie freak, but if I'm her management, it's like, okay, you no longer have to audition for any movie ever again, right? She's at that level. She doesn't have to audition for movies now. They either offer it to her or they don't. She turns down movies now. You have 2 Oscars. You are in rare company. Not many actresses have 2 Academy Awards. And you're still super young. The rest of your career now is going to be about building your resume to be in the greatest actress of all time conversation. Not that she's going to be the greatest actress of all time, but she's going to be in that conversation. And I don't see, I mean, a cameo, maybe a cameo or something like that. That's possible. But I mean, to actually be in the movie and be a legitimate character in the movie, I don't see her doing it. They'll 100% offer it to her. 100% they'll offer it to her, but she won't do it. Let's put it, I'd be very, very, very pleasantly surprised if they did, but I don't think they will. So no. All right. Let's see. Next up, and our final question of the day comes to us from MC Flops, who writes, "Hey John, love the show. Thank you so much. If Dune 3 is as good as 2, will it be the best trilogy ever made? And will we ever see another trilogy as good in our lifetime?" Well, I mean, it ain't Star Wars. If Dune 3 is as good as Dune 2, it gets right up there in the conversation of the top 3 greatest trilogies, or top 3, top 4 greatest trilogies. It gets into the conversation with The Godfather. It gets into the conversation with Star Wars. It gets into the conversation with Lord of the Rings. It'll be up there and in the conversation. Now, will we ever see another trilogy as good as our lifetime? Well, I'm sure a lot of people asked that when the Lord of the Rings trilogy came out. It's like, will we ever? And then Lord of the Rings ended up with Return of the King winning a record 11 Academy Awards. Put that in perspective. Oppenheimer just dominated the Oscars and it won 7. Lord of the Rings won 4 more than that. It won 11 Academy Awards. No film in history has ever won more than 11 Oscars at the Academy Awards. So, I mean, I'm sure people, when Lord of the Rings finished and it won all the Oscars and all that kind of stuff, the question, will we ever see something as good in our lifetime? Well, here we are, and we've got Dune, and that's in our lifetime. So, yes, we can absolutely see another trilogy as good in our lifetime. 100% we can. Will we or won't we? I mean, we'll have to wait and see, but we've already seen it happen. We got Lord of the Rings, now we got this. And by the way, if Paddington 3, and I'm not joking, I'm not even kidding, if Paddington 3 is as good as Paddington 1 and 2, that might get in the conversation as well. Then you got the Toy Story films. That's up there as well. I mean, listen, we've had a gluttony of great trilogies. But yes, if Dune 3 is as good as Dune 2, it gets up there in the upper echelon of that conversation. It gets into the conversation with Godfather, Star Wars, and Lord of the Rings. I'm not going to say it beats any of them, but I will say it gets into the conversation with those ones. So we'll find out. All right, guys. And that'll do it for today's installment of Open Mic. Thank you so much for being here and making this little show a part of your day and allowing me to be a part of your day as well. Always a blast when I get to hang out here with you guys and just talk casually about movies and everything like that. Great to have you here, and I've had a blast doing this. Don't forget, we'll be back again tomorrow for the John Campea Show. We'll look forward to seeing you guys then. And there's already a number of fairly decently sized news stories that have come through this afternoon that we're definitely going to be talking about tomorrow. We'll look forward to seeing you then. Hey, guys, do me a favor. For everybody still here, we got 500 people. As I've a whole bunch of people have already left as I started to sign off, but we still got 500 people in here. Do me a favor. There's 500 of you here right now. Quick second, click the like button. Just take a quick moment, take a quick second, click the like button. It's a simple, easy, no effort thing to do that really helps out the show. I very, very rarely ever ask for you guys to help us out that way, but it would be really, really cool if you guys could just take a second, since you're here, just take a moment, just slide the mouse down, click that like button, and it would help us out a great deal. Really simple, easy way to do it, and it's always good for us. And everybody's in the live chat saying done. Thank you, guys. Appreciate it. I think I'm going to do that on the John Campea Show tomorrow, too. At maybe coming out of the first ad break, I can say, hey, guys, listen, we got 3,000 people watching. Do us a quick favor. Take a brief moment and click like, and let's see what happens. Anyway, okay, guys, thank you so much for everything. My name's John Campea, and until tomorrow, my friends, bye-bye.